The fire could still be seen from miles away. Alex stood on a rocky hill overlooking what used to be their home. The survivor colony that once protected more than 100 people was now nothing but burning ruins. Smoke climbed into the dark sky like a black storm cloud. The night air smelled of ash, burned wood, and something worse. Around him the remaining survivors were silent. No one spoke. Some stared at the distant flames. Others sat on the ground, exhausted, their weapons resting beside them. They had barely escaped. Only a few hours earlier the colony had been alive. Guards on the towers, people cooking, children playing near the trucks. Then the alarm siren started screaming. At first they thought it was a small group of zombies approaching the walls. That happened often. The colony had survived dozens of attacks before. But this time it was different. The ground began to shake. From the forest beyond the outer road came thousands of figures moving in the darkness. A horde, not hundreds, thousands. Alex could still hear the sound they made, the low, endless growling of the dead. The colony defenders fought hard. The watchtowers opened fire. Spotlights lit the night. Machine guns rattled across the walls. For a moment it looked like they might stop them. But the horde kept coming. The outer gate collapsed first. Then the fence. After that, chaos. Alex had helped a group of survivors escape through the maintenance road behind the storage buildings. It was a narrow dirt path leading into the forest. Now only 11 people remained. 11 out of more than 100. Behind them the colony burned. In front of them stretched a dark forest full of unknown dangers. And none of them knew if the horde was still following. Alex finally broke the silence. "We can't stay here," he said quietly. No one disagreed. They moved deeper into the forest before stopping again. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the only light came from a small flashlight Daniel carried. Daniel had joined them only recently, a survivor from another settlement near a hydroelectric dam far to the north. No one fully trusted him yet, but without him Alex's group might not have escaped the colony at all. He knew the maintenance road. He knew the forest trails. And right now that knowledge meant survival. The group gathered around a fallen tree. There were 11 survivors. Alex, Daniel, Maya, the colony's medic, 2 brothers named Victor and Leon, a quiet mechanic called Thomas, 3 former guards, and 2 young survivors who had lost their families in the attack. Everyone looked exhausted. Some were injured. Maya moved carefully from person to person, checking wounds under the dim light. "Nothing fatal," she said after a while. "But we can't keep running like this." Alex nodded. They needed food, water, and a safe place to sleep. But safety was almost impossible now. The colony had been the strongest settlement in the entire region. If it could fall, any place could. Daniel sat on a rock, watching the forest. "They followed us," he said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "What do you mean?" Victor asked. Daniel pointed toward the dark trees. "The horde didn't attack randomly. I saw them change direction when people ran. Like they were being pushed." Alex frowned. "Pushed by what?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't know." A distant scream echoed through the forest. Everyone froze. The sound was not human. And it was not a normal zombie either. Something else was out there. By early morning the survivors reached an old service road cutting through the forest. Rusting road signs leaned sideways. Abandoned cars were scattered along the cracked asphalt. Nature was slowly reclaiming everything. Alex studied the road. "Where does this lead?" Daniel pointed north. "If we follow this road long enough, we reach the valley. That's where the hydroelectric dam is." The others looked at him. "You said your settlement was there," Maya said. Daniel nodded slowly. "It was." "What happened?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The same thing that happened to your colony." Silence fell again. "Our settlement had strong walls," Daniel continued. "Concrete barriers, watch towers, floodlights. For months we were safe. But then the hordes started changing. Moving differently." Alex crossed his arms. "How?" Daniel pointed toward the forest again. "They were gathering. Thousands of them. Like something was guiding them." Leon laughed nervously. "Zombies don't think." Daniel looked directly at him. "I know. But something made them move." A cold wind passed through the trees. Alex made his decision. "If there's a dam there," he said, "there might still be supplies. And strong structures. Concrete walls." Victor nodded. "Better than sleeping in the forest." The group agreed. They would travel north, toward the dam. But none of them realized the truth yet. The dam settlement had not simply fallen. Something else had awakened there. Something far worse than a zombie horde. The road seemed safe at first. For hours the survivors walked through silent countryside. The forest slowly opened into hills and valleys where farms once stood. Abandoned tractors rusted in fields of tall grass. Old houses stood empty, their windows broken and doors hanging open. It looked like the world had simply stopped. But Alex knew better. The dead were always somewhere. Watching, waiting. Near midday they passed through a small village. Most buildings had collapsed or burned years earlier, but a few still stood. Daniel raised his hand. "Wait." Everyone stopped. "What is it?" Maya asked. Daniel pointed at the ground. "Footprints. Not zombie tracks. Human footprints. Fresh ones. Someone had passed through recently." Victor tightened his grip on his rifle. "Other survivors." "Maybe," Alex said. "But stay ready." They moved carefully through the village streets. Halfway across the square they heard a sudden noise inside a building. A metal crash. Then a scream. Alex kicked open the door. Inside they found a man fighting 3 zombies that had trapped him in a corner. The survivors quickly eliminated the undead. The man collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. He looked thin and exhausted. "Thank you," he said. Alex helped him up. "What happened here?" The man pointed down the road. "There are more coming." "How many?" The man swallowed. "Too many." Then he said something that made everyone freeze. "They're not just wandering anymore. They're moving in packs. And they're heading to the dam." The road slowly began to descend as the survivors moved north. The hills opened into a wide valley, and for the first time since leaving the colony they could see far across the land. Daniel stopped walking and raised his hand. "Look." Everyone followed his gaze. Far in the distance, partially hidden by fog, stood the massive structure of the hydroelectric dam. Even after the collapse of civilization it still looked powerful, a giant wall of concrete stretching across the valley. Behind it was a huge dark lake. At the base of the dam were buildings, warehouses, and tall electrical towers. The remains of the settlement. For a moment hope appeared in the group. Concrete walls meant protection. Warehouses meant supplies. Maybe some survivors had managed to hold the place. But the silence of the valley felt wrong. No lights, no smoke from fires, no human voices, only wind. Alex studied the valley carefully. Then he noticed something disturbing. Movement. At first it looked like shadows moving slowly along the base of the dam. Then more shapes appeared, hundreds of them. Zombies. They were gathered around the buildings like a massive dark swarm. But they weren't attacking anything. They were simply standing there, watching. Why aren't they moving? Maya whispered. Daniel's face had gone pale. They did this before. What do you mean? Alex asked. At our settlement, Daniel said quietly. Before the attack, they gathered like this. Waiting. Victor looked confused. Waiting for what? Daniel didn't answer. The wind carried a distant sound across the valley. A low mechanical noise. Something inside the dam was still running. As night approached, the survivors carefully moved closer to the dam. They stayed hidden along the hills, using trees and rocks for cover. The closer they got, the more disturbing the scene became. Thousands of zombies filled the valley floor. Some wandered slowly between abandoned vehicles. Others stood completely still. Many of them were facing the same direction. Toward the dam entrance. Alex had seen many hordes before. But never anything like this. This isn't normal behavior, Thomas said quietly. No, Alex agreed. Something is keeping them here. They reached a small ridge overlooking the main entrance road. From there they could see the entire settlement area. Burned trucks, broken barricades, collapsed watchtowers, signs of a massive battle. The people who had lived here had clearly tried to defend themselves. But they had lost. Near the main gate, Alex spotted something strange. A group of zombies was clustered tightly together, almost forming a circle. Inside the circle something was moving. Something larger. The survivors watched in silence as the shape slowly rose above the dead. It wasn't walking like the others. It moved faster, stronger, and when it turned its head, its eyes reflected the moonlight. Bright, aware. Daniel whispered the words none of them wanted to hear. That's what destroyed the settlement. The creature let out a deep roar that echoed across the valley. Instantly the zombies around it began to move. Not randomly. Together. Like soldiers responding to a command. And they started moving toward the hills. Toward the survivors. Run, Alex said. The group didn't hesitate. They moved quickly along the ridge, trying to stay hidden in the darkness. Behind them the valley was coming alive. Thousands of footsteps. Low growling. The horde was moving. Alex realized something terrifying. They know we're here. No, Daniel said while running beside him. They always know. Victor looked back down the hill. The massive creature was climbing the slope, moving through the horde like a commander leading an army. It was larger than a normal human. Its movements were fast and controlled. Not the slow staggering of the dead. What the hell is that thing? Leon asked. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. We called them alphas. The first infected. The group finally reached a narrow mountain trail leading away from the valley. If they could reach the forest on the other side, they might escape. But the sound behind them was getting louder. The horde was climbing. Alex stopped suddenly. If we keep running, they'll follow us forever. So what do we do? Maya asked. Alex looked back toward the dam. Then at the massive concrete structure holding back millions of tons of water. An idea formed in his mind. A dangerous one. If we destroy the dam. Everyone stared at him. The valley floods, Thomas said slowly. And the horde disappears. Daniel looked back at the approaching Alpha. It might work, he said. But to do that, we have to go back. Alex nodded. For the first time since the colony fell, the survivors had a plan. But it might also be the last decision they ever make.